Alright everybody, welcome to the first episode of Miss Hannah's art demos. Today we're going to be talking about Zentangle animals, and we're just getting started today, so I'm going to call this part 1. Okay, so today we're working on watercolor paper, which is a nice thick paper because we'll be using watercolors on it later. I have it taped down to a drawing board so that it can stay nice and flat while I'm working. I'm going to be working in a 2B pencil so you guys can see, but you should probably use a 2H pencil because they're nice and light. Make sure you have an eraser ready to go in case of mistakes, but don't worry too much about getting things totally perfect. Okay, so make sure your pencil is very sharp also. You need to be precise. Okay, so I was trying to choose what picture I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to make a picture of my friend's dog, Layla, and at first I saw this picture. And it's really cute, but it's kind of far away, so I wanted a closer up of her face. So I was debating between these pictures. Now this one's a little more clear, but this one's more fun and interesting. So I would suggest you find a picture that is interesting, fun, and is nice and close up and has some good shapes to it. So, close up, fun, good shapes, and you want a nice clear picture. You don't want to have a real blurred out picture. It'll be a lot harder for you. Okay? So what I'm going to start by doing is figuring out how to break this up into shapes. So here, I'm going to kind of outline it so that it's a little easier to see her face. She's got this goofy snowball in her mouth. And her head is right here. So I'm starting out just by outlining this to make it easier to see. Okay, can you kind of see that? Alright, now I've got her paw over here too. Okay, we're good. Now, I'm going to kind of try and make these shapes. This is sort of like a big circle here, and I'm going to show that by making a big circle here. So when you use a circle, use your whole arm. Don't go really slow. Okay, so I'm going to start about in the middle here and get a circle, pretty big circle shape. And I'm going to make her a little bit bigger than in my picture. So here's a circle shape, and then we've got sort of a triangle shape for her nose here. See that? So one of the best ways to start drawing is to break it down into easier shapes. If you just try and go for it, it's a lot harder to get the proportions right. Okay, so I've got big circle shape, and then I've got sort of rounded triangle shape. Now from here, I'm going to get a little more specific with my lines and get a little more specific with how the shapes actually go. See, she's got this cheek right here on the right. It's kind of coming out. And she's got her sort of eyebrow, head bone, and cheek over here. And then we've got this rounded lip here, and her nose, her top jaw here, and I think I'm getting a little bit wide, so I'm going to make it a little skinnier here. think I made it a little too wide, so I'm going to erase this. Make it a little skinnier here. That's a little better. Okay, so then I have my top jaw, and here's my bottom jaw. She's got a snowball in there, so I want to have some extra room for that. Here's her snowball. And then her nose is pretty big. Dogs have pretty big noses. Make sure you draw them big enough. Sort of this kind of a shape. Kind of square, not too square. And her nostrils are also very big. Okay, now she's got her eyes. Now that I have sort of her face shape planned out, I can show where her eyes go. Here's her other eye over here. And I want to make sure they're kind of in line with each other. This one's a little low. Now, what's she missing? She needs some ears, right? So I'm going to get these going over here. They're really kind of poofy. She's a golden retriever, so she's got some poofy, hairy ears. Over here, got our other ear. Okay. All right. Now, this is kind of part of her mouth here. Her nose connects. All right, now, gonna add a little detail to her eyes, just to show where her pupils are. And let's get that paw in there too. And a little bit of her body. You guys see that? There. So her body is kind of going off the page over here. And coming down over next to her ear. Now her body looks really far away, and her other paw is underneath her, so. We got her back leg over here, and her back paw back here, and her little tail coming into the frame right here. I'm making that a little longer. You can take some liberties with this. If it looks better, just go for it. Draw it your way. Okay? Now I've got a basic outline of the body. That's part one. Now, what I did was I outlined the shape. I'm going to write down some steps. So number one, outline your shape. You can do this in your head or on your paper. It's easier to do it on your paper, so if you can print it out, that's great. And then, number two, we drew nice and big. Draw big. And number three, we worked from general to specific. I worked with the big shapes first, and then I got more and more detailed as I went. So, make sure you kind of keep in mind where things are in relationship to each other too. Okay, so that's part one. Thank you for paying attention.